Thank you, everyone, for making time in your morning to attend this webinar. Really is important to us to connect with Canada specialists, and with you all being so far away, it's very nice to touch base. So thank you very much for being here. Start the presentation. There's my ugly mug on the screen there. My name is Jamie Ferguson, and I'm a sales coordinator in the travel trade department here at Tourism Victoria. And I've been with the company for about 2.5 years now. I started with them actually in the Visitor Information Center located just in the Inner Harbor. So some good product knowledge of the destination. I moved to Victoria about 2.5 years ago from Vancouver, and absolutely love the town. It's a nice change from big city living. Victoria's got this kind of small town city feel to it, if you know what I mean. It's a really lovely place to live. If you're wondering what kind of accent this is, it's not a Victorian accent. People don't talk like me here. I'm originally from the UK. I'm from Bristol, and I moved over to Canada when I was much younger. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's move on with the presentation. So I wanted to start today's presentation by just sharing with you some great coverage that we've received recently for Victoria. There's kind of a trend right now with Victoria in that it's changed. Our reputation of 10, 15 years ago of being a sleepy little destination for the newlywed and the nearly dead is something that we've worked very hard to change. We've become a really hot, bustling spot. We have a lot of young people living in Victoria now. We've got obviously the University of Victoria, but also a very healthy tech community in Victoria. And with that kind of fresh youthfulness has come a burst of I hate to say the word hip, because as soon as you say hip, you're not hip at all. But we've become quite trendy, and we've got some fantastic subcultures in Victoria here. Great outdoors community, recreation, very food-focused. Beer and coffee and cocktails are strong cultures in Victoria as well. We were recently voted the #7 top destination to visit this year by Condé Nast. That just was announced a few days ago. So we're absolutely chuffed and humbled to be included so high up on that list. But it really is a testament to what Victoria has become as a destination these days. And there's a lot to experience, and we'll get into that right now. So first off, give you just kind of an overview of where Victoria is located. I know you all are Canada specialists, so you probably know already, but of course, Vancouver Island is located on the west coast of British Columbia, and Victoria is located at the very southern tip of Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island itself is 450 kilometers long, so it's a large place. It's a large place. You know, having worked at the visitor center and have travelers come in, perhaps not be familiar with the actual size of the island. So no, you can't drive around Vancouver Island in a day. All the fjords and mountains make that difficult. But to drive from one tip to the other would probably take about 8 hours or so. So it's a big place. It's a big place. And Victoria, just right down at the bottom there. On another note, another accolade that we were given last week by Condé Nast was Vancouver Island voted the 7th best island in the world to visit. So again, 7 seems to be our lucky number, and we're very pleased and honored with that as well. In terms of location relative to Vancouver, Victoria is 60 kilometers south of Vancouver and 90 kilometers north of Seattle, are 2 major gateways into the destination. If we were to zoom into the map a little bit more, this is the Greater Victoria area. So Victoria, right down at the bottom there, what you're looking at here is the Saanich Peninsula, the very top of your screen there where the blue is. You'll find Swartz Bay Ferry Terminal, and this is where the ferry from mainland Canada will arrive. So for all your FIT clients or self-drives, this is where they would be entering from Vancouver. And it's roughly about a 35, 40-minute drive from downtown Victoria down at the bottom of your screen there. The Greater Victoria area is actually made up of 13 different municipalities. So the Victoria proper, down at the bottom of your screen there, is actually quite a small area made up as well of Saanich, Central Saanich there, and then over to the left side of your screen, this is an area called the West Shore, and you can see Highway 1 going up the left side of your screen there, which would take you further up island to Nanaimo and eventually up to Port Hardy at the very northern tip of Vancouver Island. Zoom in just a little bit further, and here we've got a map of Victoria proper. So you can see downtown just on the left-hand side of the screen there. It's quite a small area. So what makes Victoria a really nice destination to visit is that everything is very, very walkable. Our downtown core is really only 10 square blocks or so. So everything is very centrally located. Our inner harbor area, just here where my cursor is, next to James Bay, which is a residential area. And just around the corner from there, we have Ogden Point, which is the location of our cruise ship terminal. So we do get lots of cruise ships in the summer months. We just had our last one last week, actually, for the year. Had a great season. But for people arriving via cruise ship, it's nice and close to the downtown area. So if people choose to walk, it would only take you about 15, 20 minutes to arrive downtown. It's also closely located to Beacon Hill Park, which is this green area here at the bottom, which is a lovely urban park right along the waterfront. Yeah. So, being an island destination, we have many different ways of getting here. The most popular option, which I talked about just a few minutes ago, would be the ferry. So there are ferries from mainland Canada, so Vancouver area. Ferry terminal is called Tsawwassen. That's located about 45 minutes south of Vancouver, and you would take a BC ferry, which is a passenger and car ferry across the Strait of Georgia and through the Southern Gulf Islands. It's an absolutely stunning sail. Traveling through the Southern Gulf Islands, it's a really special place. It's very, very pretty, and you're traveling in a very ecologically abundant area, so there's always a good chance of seeing wildlife on your ferry crossing from Vancouver. I had a friend on the ferry yesterday. He saw some orca whales from the deck, and so that was quite special. And it's not a rare occurrence. BC ferries, you know, these ships are actually very cruise-like. They've got incredible amenities on board, including buffets and cafeterias, gift shops, interpretation as well of the natural area. So a very common way of getting to and from mainland. Just before I start on this slide, I just wanted to mention that we make a big effort to push Victoria as a multi-night destination. You know, you can do day trips from Vancouver quite easily, but with the travel time, particularly if you are taking a ferry across, you're looking at 3.5 hours each way, and so it takes up a chunk of your day. So by the time you get here, you're kind of limited on time and thereby limited on what you can see. So we highly recommend when you're suggesting clients visit Victoria that you look at having them spend at least 2-3 nights in Victoria. Even though the downtown area is small and easily seen on foot, there's a lot more to offer in the surrounding areas in terms of attractions and natural environment and things like that to see. So if there's one takeaway you take from this webinar, it would be that, you know, Victoria is a multi-night destination. Getting back to this slide here, this is an exciting new product that will be arriving in spring of 2017, next year. This is V2V Vacations, and this is a passenger ferry service that will be run between downtown Victoria and downtown Vancouver, which is fantastic. It's been many, many years since we've had a service from downtown to downtown, so it'll create quite convenient travel. It is passenger only. The crossing will take roughly about 3 hours, but the way that they position themselves is to be a tour product, so perfect for clients, tour groups, FIT travelers. They're going to have fantastic amenities on board, including West Coast style dining. They're going to have interpreters, environment interpreters. They'll have movie theater on board, as well as concierge to help book hotels, attractions, and things like that as well. So we're really excited to have an added transportation method to the island. We welcome this kind of thing, being an island destination. We've been able to open ourselves up, and it's never really been easier to get to Victoria with options like this, continually starting up. Another way to get here is by float plane. Really is a incredible experience to take off and land on water, and Harbour Air Seaplanes are the float plane company that runs between Victoria's inner harbour and Vancouver's downtown. And to fly between the two cities takes about 35 minutes, so it's certainly the most convenient and easiest way to get to and from the mainland. And on top of that, you have the stunning views of the Southern Gulf Islands from the air, which are fantastic. This lovely lady on your screen, that's Angelina Papone. She's one of our sales managers here. She wanted me to throw this picture in just to show you guys that from time to time, if the planes are quite full, the pilot will invite someone to sit up in the cockpit with him, which is a cool experience I've had the chance to do 1 or 2 times. It's quite cool. In terms of cost, flights range from about $180 to about $250. Again, that depends on the time of year and also the time of day that you're flying. You can also fly directly from the inner harbour here in Victoria to Whistler, as well as to the south terminal at Vancouver International Airport. So if you've got people connecting off international flights into YVR, then Harbour Air does fly from the south terminal to Victoria. 2 more options here. If you've got travelers coming in through Seattle or Washington State or further West Coast destinations, on your left you have the Victoria Clipper, which again is a passenger-only ferry, and that connects downtown Seattle with downtown Victoria. It takes about 2 hours and 45 minutes to get from port to port. It's another fantastic service. On your right there, you've got the majestic Blackpool Coho ferry, and that is a passenger and vehicle ferry. The Coho connects the Victoria Inner Harbour with a little town on the Washington Olympic Peninsula called Port Angeles. So great if you've got self-drive or perhaps RV trips. Great way if they're coming up, from California or even arriving in Seattle and starting their journey there. A great way to get to Victoria as well. Here's a shot of the Victoria Inner Harbour. The Inner Harbour really is the focal point of tourism here in Victoria. You can kind of see there are hotels surrounding the harbour. You can see the Empress there with the Ivy, which is now gone. The Ivy, that is not the hotel, given the Ivy off the front. Talk about that a bit more later on. That's shopping and attractions all within a very, very short walking distance of the Inner Harbour. And it's one of the busiest harbours in North America. We are an international airport in the harbour, and so we have over 100 flights daily in the height of summer. So it's always bustling. You'll have kayakers out on there. You can see some of the little harbour ferries that zip around from point to point as well. Just where my cursor is here, along the right-hand side of your screen is the Belleville terminal. So this is where the Clipper and the Coho Black Bull ferry would arrive from Seattle and from Port Townsend, or Port Angeles, sorry, respectively. So very, very convenient. Brings you right into the heart of Victoria, and very, very convenient for guests. Next shot is the inner harbor at night. And so Victoria is quite beautiful and magical in the evenings. We light up our buildings. As you can see here, this is the BC Legislative Building. We're the capital of British Columbia, so our parliament sits there and pretends to do things. And on the right of the screen is the steamship terminal. This is where the old steamship barges would dock, but they light this up in the evening every evening as well. It's quite a lovely sight to see. In the summertime, we have an event called Symphony Splash. So you imagine removing all of these ships out of the harbor there. They move those out and they bring in a big floating stage with the Victoria Symphony Orchestra on it, and they play to the crowds gathered along the side of the causeway there in the summertime. And that's a big hit, one of our most popular and well-attended summer events. So that's something, if you have clients coming in the beginning of August, something that you could mention to them as an insider tip. So I wanted to get into some products with you. So really, the meat and potatoes of Victoria, we're still very much, Whales and Gardens destination. I think that's what Victoria is quite well known for, and they really are the foundations of our industry here. But what we've done a really good job at doing is filling in the gaps between just whales and gardens with a lot more experiential products, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But I wanted to start with whale watching, because everyone loves whales and orcas. We're very lucky here on the southern tip of Vancouver Island to be protected with water surrounding all of Victoria. And we're ideally positioned for world-class whale watching and marine wildlife viewing. And it's a year-round event. We get whales in the summertime, usually orca whales from the months of April through to October. But the last few years, we've seen orca whales all throughout the year, and you can see in this photo here, we've had some baby orcas coming to the region, born into the region. So that's been a really positive thing for our whale population. We're really pleased to see that population grow. Because we have such an abundant ecological area, we really have high success rates with finding whales and viewing them close to the Victoria area. So along with orca whales, we have humpback whales, minke whales, the occasional gray whale as well. And you're always likely to see sea lions and bald eagles and seals and such, all within a very, very short distance of Victoria. So most whale watching companies run 3-hour tours, and they'll either be on a covered vessel, so a larger boat, or a Zodiac boat, which is one of those zippy little boats where you get the wind in your hair and quite the adrenaline rush. We've got 6 different whale watching companies located within the inner harbor, so there is choice. But all the whale watching companies work together. If they're out, they want everyone to see whales, and so they will let the other companies know that the whales are out there. No one's hoarding whales, So it's a very collaborative thing, and there's a big push on sustainability and environmental knowledge and educating people of, on these beautiful creatures and the surrounding area. So it's truly a lovely experience for people to do. This is a picture of a place called Race Rocks, where you often will go out on a marine wildlife tour. This is one of the oldest lighthouses in Canada, and you can see with all the bull kelp there, lots of marine life in the water, and backdrop there by the Olympic Mountains on the Washington State Peninsula. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Butchart Gardens, and it is one of our Canada signature experiences here in Victoria. Butchart Gardens are 55 acres of botanical gardens that are just absolutely exquisitely maintained. They have 50 full-time gardeners, constant rotation of blooms, so there's always something in bloom no matter what time of the year you go. It's absolutely gorgeous right now in the fall with the changing colors. This particular picture is the Italian garden, but just beyond there is the Japanese garden, and I just absolutely love the colors of the Japanese maples at this time of year. They're stunning. A bit of history on Butchart. I was initiated in 1904 by Robert and Jenny Butchart, and basically it was an old concrete quarry, and Jenny Butchart wanted to beautify what remained of this quarry, and so she started planting and planting and planting until it became this exquisite garden. And Butchart Gardens are still family-owned today, and it's a very family-oriented attraction. It's a picture here of the Christmas lights that they have in the month of December at the Butchart Gardens. They absolutely transform the gardens into this beautiful winter wonderland. There's millions of lights set up all over the gardens, and they run a 12 Days of Christmas theme. They set up an ice rink in the front concourse area. There is carol singers that will sing to you as you walk around the gardens. And they have a special food and beverage meals set up, so special afternoon tea, festive afternoon tea, and festive Christmas dinners and things like that set up as well. So that runs December 1st to January 6th. But there really is no bad time to visit Butchart Gardens. Whatever time of the year that you come, you're likely to see something different. It's ever-changing, a great place to visit. One thing I would recommend to people, if you're sending guests here, is to try and send people in the early afternoon or the early morning. And the reason for that is you kind of miss the big swaths of tour groups that come by. Generally, tour groups will come off the 10 o'clock ferry and arrive at Butchart around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock for lunchtime. And they can get quite congested there in the summertime. So if you are recommending your clients to visit Butchart Gardens, either the early morning when they first open at 9 o'clock or around 2 o'clock in the afternoon and onwards is a nice time to go to avoid the big crowds. Next up, this is a shot of a beautiful, unique houseboat or floating homes community that we have in Victoria called Fisherman's Wharf. Much like San Francisco's or Granville Island, perhaps in Vancouver, ours is unique and full of these beautiful, colorful houses. In a Fisherman's Wharf, you'll find some shops, you'll find fish and chip places, other food stalls. You can buy fresh seafood right off the boat down here. And as you can see, these little water taxis will zip around and transport you from the inner harbor out to Fisherman's Wharf. So if you prefer to walk from downtown, it's only about a 7-minute walk from the inner harbor there. Another thing you can do down at Fisherman's Wharf is feed these big old fat seals. So you purchase some fish, and it's a great family activity to do. And these seals are they're not silly. They know where to hang out. So I always have to kind of tell people, you know, this is not an accurate representation of what a harbor seal looks like, because they're absolutely huge and bloated. They're well fed and well taken care of, and have a safe haven from the whales out in the space there. Another one of our attractions that we're very proud of is the Royal British Columbia Museum, which was recently voted the best museum in Canada, which is quite an accolade. So the Royal BC Museum is a museum of natural history and human history, telling the story of British Columbia. So they've got fantastic exhibits on First Peoples, First Nations. You can see down at the bottom there the Totem Hall. And then, of course, their Ice Age exhibits all the way through up to modern-day history of British Columbia. So we're very lucky to have such a fantastic attraction, which is located, again, right in our harbor, right across the street from the Fairmont Empress. So very centrally located. The museum also contains an IMAX theater, which has the largest screen in Western Canada, just was retrofit a couple months ago. So that's a nice feature for people to do if the weather is not super cooperative. Next slide here is our Chinatown, and so this is a historic neighborhood in downtown Victoria. Our Chinatown is the oldest Chinatown in Canada and the second oldest in North America, second to San Francisco. Dates back to about the mid-19th century. And there's some very cool little alleyways to explore in Chinatown. Fantan Alley is the narrowest commercial alleyway in North America, and you can find all sorts of funky, unique little shops down there, and it's always a nice place for a photo op. And these, of course, are the gates of harmonious interest. And I'm sure there's a joke about politicians and things like that, but I'm not quite sure what that would be. Anyway, so Chinatown is a very culturally significant place for us here in Victoria, and well worth a visit. And again, it's located right downtown, only about a 7-minute walk from the Ann Arbor. Another historical attraction that we have close to town is Craigdarroch Castle. So this is a Scottish-style castle or mansion that was built in the 1890s, built by a wealthy coal baron called Robert Dunsmuir. And the Dunsmuir family is a family with all sorts of drama in their history. They're kind of like the 19th century Kardashians, if you like. Lots of interesting stories. Anyway, but the attraction itself is a gorgeous representation of 19th century Victoria architecture. It's got some fantastic views. You can climb the old wooden staircase in there right to the very top turret, and you get some lovely views of the whole city of Victoria from up there. It's also a great place to visit seasonally as well. They do lots of fun things for Halloween, which is coming up next week, of course. They have plays, and they do ghost tours in there. And then in Christmas, the Christmas season, they'll deck it out, as you can see here in this picture. And they'll do fancy banquets and Christmas plays and things like that as well. So it's a fun historic attraction here in Victoria. One of my favorite ways to get to know a place is by renting a bike or taking a bike tour. And Victoria is a great destination to explore on bike. We're a very bike-friendly city. In fact, I think there's more people that commute to work on bike in Victoria per capita than anywhere else in Canada. So we've got a lot of bikers here, and we're set up really nicely for biking. So we've got a few different rental companies if you wanted to do self-guided tours. Or we do have companies such as a company called the Peddler, who offer a range of different tours. So tours such as historic tours that will take you to places like Chinatown and Craigdarroch Castle. They also have food tasting tours. They even have a tour called the Hoppy Hour tour, which is a beer tasting tour, believe it or not. And I did go on that tour, and you know, it's fine. They don't give you too much. You are able to ride your bike in a straight line after a few samples, and it's a lot of fun. We also have 2 biking paths in town. We have the Galloping Goose Trail, which is a long cycling path that runs right from downtown Victoria, 60 kilometers to the west of a town called Souk, and then also a trail called the Lochside Trail, which runs from downtown all the way up to Swartz Bay, which is where the ferry would arrive. Victoria is surrounded with fantastic hiking trails. This particular photo, pretty spectacular, was taken at a provincial park called Gowan Todd, and this is really about a 20-minute drive north of the city here. So lots of hiking opportunities around Victoria. We have a brand new member with us who joined us fairly recently, and he's got a great product. They're called Hike Victoria, and the fellow Mark will pick your group up from your hotel and take you to some more kind of hidden gem hiking locations. He'll bring you lunch, give you kind of an interpretive talk as you're exploring these hiking trails. He's also a fantastic photographer as well, and so he takes pictures of you in these stunning vistas, and you're able to take these photos from the end of your hike. A great day trip option for people from Victoria is the Pacific Marine Circle route. So as I mentioned, Vancouver Island is large, and it takes a while to get from place to place, particularly if you're wanting to go further up island where it gets a little bit more wild and rugged and mountainous. A lot of people like to visit Tofino, which is a small surf town right on the west coast of Vancouver Island. But to drive from Victoria, it's about a 5-hour drive to do that. So for visitors that perhaps don't have as much time to explore more of the island, the Pacific Marine Circle route is a really nice option. It would take about a day to do the whole thing. So it's a circle route starting in Victoria and heading out west towards the town of Souk. And once you're past Souk here along Highway 14, you're right along the west coast here. So we're talking big long beaches, huge cedar trees, big Douglas firs, and you get that real west coast experience. And you drive out towards the town of Port Renfrew right at the left-hand side of your screen there. Then you drive up through the Cowichan Valley region, which is a fairly forested area, through Lake Cowichan and through to Duncan. And in Duncan and Shawnigan Lake area, you'll find lots of wineries. That's a fun thing to explore as well. So quite a unique little trip you can do or suggest to your clients if they're wanting to get that West Coast British Columbia experience, then they will certainly find that along the Pacific Marine Circle route. Here is a picture of Mystic Beach, which is just one of the beautiful beaches along the Pacific Marine Circle route. So to drive out to a place like this from Victoria would take you about 45 minutes. So it's not far, and as you can see, absolutely gorgeous with the cascading waterfalls and big cliffs. It's a lovely place to visit. Close to Port Renfrew, which to drive to from Victoria would take you about an hour and a half or so. You will be in old growth forest, so beautiful, huge Douglas firs, as I mentioned, and cedar trees, ancient forests. So we get a lot of questions about experiences and wanting to experience the West Coast. Places like Port Renfrew don't really get more West Coast with their mossy rocks and the giant trees and the crashing surf. It's a place if people have the time to check out, I would highly recommend taking it. One thing that Vancouver Island perhaps isn't particularly well known for, though it should be, is our wine scene. And we're lucky to have in the region around 6 wineries within about a 30-minute drive of Victoria. That picture of on the top of your screen there is taken from a local winery called Divine up on the Saanich Peninsula, and that's looking out east across Haro Strait towards Mount Baker in Washington State. And just an absolutely picturesque place to go and taste some wines. We're quite well known for our white wines, Pinot Gris and such here in Victoria. And most of the wineries as well have buffets and dining options as well. So for those of you who are into your wine, it's a lovely thing to do. There, of course, are tour companies in Victoria that will do guided wine tours where you'll visit a number of wineries in a single day, and you have the option to purchase and send back wines. Yeah, we're quite lucky to have this kind of hidden gem, I would say, of wine culture in Victoria. Likewise, if you hadn't guessed by now, we're quite into our libations here in Victoria. We have quite a few craft breweries and cideries and distilleries in the area as well. So we've got 9 local breweries, and there's always a bit of a competition between ourselves, Vancouver, Seattle, and Portland as to who has the best breweries. But, I think we hold our own for sure. Brew pub tours are a popular thing to do as well. Breweries will offer tours of the process, of the beer making process, offer samples, and so it's a really fun thing to do. The picture on your top right there is a place called Sea Cider, and that's out in the Saanich Peninsula as well, and they make their own cider. We're lucky in that we have a number of apples that only grow in this part of the world, so we do create some pretty unique ciders, and they're quite fun to check out. Victoria Gin there, located up in Sydney. They've just moved locations to Sydney, and have set up a big distillery there, and they do walk-through tours, lessons on how to make certain gins and tonics and things like that. So yeah, we're kind of into our beer and our wine and our cideries here in Victoria. Shopping in Victoria is a really great thing to do. Being such a compact, small downtown, shopping experiences in Victoria can be really easily done on foot. This particular picture here is of an area called Lojo, Lower Johnson Street. And on Lower Johnson, you find lots of unique boutique-y type of shops. So we're different from the big cities like Vancouver or Seattle. We don't have the Gucci's and the Armani's and the big brand names as such, but what we do have are unique local artisans and things like that. So it makes for a unique experience, and I think a lot of people are in search of that unique local factor, and we've got that by the bucketful here in Victoria. Victoria is one of the only places in Canada that you can golf year-round. We're very lucky. We've got a large number of championship golf courses all within a short drive of downtown Victoria, within 20 minutes drive or so. This particular photo here is taken from Bear Mountain, about 20 minutes outside of Victoria. We recently hosted the PGA Tour at this golf course, and so it's of a very high quality, and the views, as you can see there with the Olympic Mountains in the background, are quite spectacular. Now onto our iconic Fairmont Empress. So when you arrive in the Victoria Harbour, this is really the first thing that you see is the grand old hotel. And I wanted to mention the Empress to you because they've undergone some big renovations. So they completed the first half of their renovations in May this year. As you can see, they've stripped off the ivy up the front of the building. They've renovated all the guest rooms and undergone big changes with their F&B as well. So a beautiful old hotel was in need of a facelift, and the new owners that purchased the hotel a couple of years ago have spared no expense in bringing it into the 21st century. A couple of renderings of the inside of the Empress. So the top left photo is their brand new tea lobby. What they've done is they've tried to keep that heritage feel, but with an updated contemporary look, and I think they've done a really nice job of balancing that look. More upgrades to the food and beverage as well. This is the new queue at the Empress, so their new dining area and bar. I was fortunate enough to have a meal there a couple of weeks ago, and it was absolutely outstanding. One of the best locations to eat in Victoria, being that you're right on the waterfront. So just lovely. So being that Victoria is such a fantastic place to visit year-round, I just wanted to give you a couple of snapshots of the 4 seasons here in Victoria. So obviously this is springtime in Victoria, and believe me, this is what it looks like. Cherry blossoms bloom everywhere you go. It's just white, fluffy stuff falling from the sky, like the rest of Canada, but it's not snow. So we like to make fun of everyone else in Canada because we have beautiful cherry blossoms instead of horrible snow like they do over in the east. That's a selling point for us. So, spring in Victoria is an absolutely lovely time. We also try to promote ourselves as the romantic capital of Canada. So Valentine's Day is a big push for us here, and we have this essence about Victoria here, and it is a very romantic place. So great place for honeymooners or couples, people celebrating their anniversaries. We get a lot of that in Victoria. Summertime, obviously the height of our tourist season here in Victoria. We are lucky in terms of our climate here, where it never gets too hot and it's never too cold. We kind of sit around that perfect 22, 23 degrees Celsius for most of the summer, and we we don't receive very much rain at all from the month of May through till September. In fact, we've received much less rainfall than both Vancouver and Seattle, and that's because we kind of exist in the rain shadow of those Olympic mountains, so we get this beautiful climate. And of course, with that climate, we're able to promote and do all sorts of outdoor activities, such as kayaking, which I think is a fantastic way to get around and see a new place, from rent kayaks to kayaking tours. I find this is a really cool and unique way to get to know a city. Moving on to the fall or the autumn, which is where we are now. It's a really fun time of year here in Victoria. We take Halloween quite seriously. I was telling Charlie just before we started here that Halloween is a big deal for us, and so we have downtown decked out with all sort of Halloween decorations. We've got bats hung up in the alleyways and spider webs and all sorts of fun things. So it's a really nice family destination at this time of the year, and we've got pumpkin patches, as you can see, all around. We have a lot of farmland in Saanich area, and so the farms will do things like corn mazes and haunted houses and all that kind of thing. So lovely time of year to visit, beautiful. It tends to be a bit quieter after the summer here in terms of visitors, but as a time to visit, I would highly recommend it to people. The weather is usually very mild. We don't get a huge amount of rain in the fall either, which is nice. And with the changing colors, Victoria absolutely shines in the fall. Great place to visit. This is a bit of a tricky photo to see right off the bat, but this is these are two salmon. And I wanted to show you this to you because the fall also brings the salmon run to the Victoria area. So up in a provincial park just north of Victoria, Goldstream Park, you can venture up there in November and you'll see hundreds of thousands of salmon heading upriver to spawn. Quite a sight to see. You can literally stick your hand in the water and pull out a salmon. Not that you would want to do that, but that's just how many there are. So a really kind of a unique thing and a very important aspect of our environment here on the salmon. He wanted to throw this picture in because I thought it was a little funny. Where else in Canada can you go paddle boarding in December? I don't think you can do it anywhere unless you're brave. So yeah, we're very lucky. As I mentioned, our climate very mild. We rarely receive snow in the wintertime, which is rare for Canada, as I'm sure you're well aware. We have this sort of Mediterranean climate. We're very lucky. So, you know, wintertime, again, a great time to visit. Crowds tend to be a bit smaller, but you still have the same choice of activities to choose from: whale watching, hiking, golfing. All those things are easily done in the wintertime, as we're not held back by our climate here. Before I finish off, I just wanted to go over a sample itinerary with you guys to give you an idea of how to spend 3 days in Victoria. So first off, start in the top corner there with Butchart Gardens. So whether you're arriving via BC Ferries or arriving into the Inner Harbour, it's very easy to get to the Butchart Gardens. Located about 20 minutes drive from Victoria, or about a 15-minute drive from Schwartz Bay Ferry Terminal if you have people coming in from the north there. There are also tour operators, coach companies that will transfer people out to the gardens and back to downtown as well. So it's a very easy place to get to. And like I mentioned, probably our most popular attraction in Victoria. Just down the road from the Butchart Gardens are the Victoria Butterfly Gardens, which is the second picture there. And this is an indoor conservatory with exotic butterflies and macaws and flamingos and all sorts of things. It's a great family destination and a great thing to package with the Butchart Gardens, as they are so close as well. Moving along to number 3, this is a picture from a winery up in the Saanich Peninsula. It's actually located right next door to the Victoria Butterfly Garden. It's called Church and State. So a great place to go and get some lunch, maybe do a winery tour, even do some tastings as well. As I mentioned, there are a number of different wineries all within a very close proximity to Butchart Gardens and downtown Victoria as well. Number 4 there, as we talked about, that's the Fisherman's Wharf area, the water taxis. Zip about, a good place to go and hang out in an afternoon in the summer. And then number 5, a great thing to do is find a patio and just enjoy some local craft beer or local wine. That particular place in the photo there is a place called the Canoe Club, and it's located right along the Gorge Waterway. As you can see, it's a lovely place to spend a summer evening. Starting off your second day, you might want to consider taking a whale watching tour. As I mentioned, they're around 3 hours in length. Really, really fun thing to do. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is the afternoon tea. So that's kind of a Victoria tradition. We were kind of steeped in this British history here in Victoria. And afternoon tea is a very popular thing to do. Of course, the Fairmont Empress is famous for their afternoon tea, but there are a number of other hotels and restaurants that offer variations of the classic afternoon or high tea. Then you can consider doing a tour of Craigdarroch Castle, get some heritage and history into your trip. Number 4 here is Harbour Air that offers scenic flights around Victoria, around the Sandwich Peninsula. A really fun thing to do. They run in 20 minutes or 30 minutes long scenic tours. Very cool. And after viewing Victoria from the water and from the air, why not explore it on bike by land? And we talked a little bit about the bike tours already. And then number 6 here, finish off the day with a ghostly walk. So guided tours through some of Victoria's haunted buildings and some of the CD paths that Victoria has. They're a lot of fun and very popular. The last day, you might want to start off with a little tour on the Victoria Harbour ferries. There'll be little tours around the inner harbour and up the Gorge Waterway as well. Then pop into the Royal BC Museum and then depart on whichever means you will be heading back on, either the Clipper or BC Ferries here or perhaps the seaplane back to the mainland. The last thing I wanted to mention was a great day trip to take from Victoria is to the Southern Gulf Islands. So we have 6 Southern Gulf Islands just off of Schwartz Bay, so very close to Victoria. They're absolutely stunning, picturesque places, each one with its own kind of unique characteristics and feel. Great for the outdoor enthusiast. You can kayak, you can hike, you can bike. Well worth visiting some of those if your clients do have the time. Just wanted to summarize a few of the key points. Victoria, an urban city surrounded by nature, as you can see with that picture in the background there. We're an all-season destination, easily accessible by air and water. We're blessed with clean air, beautiful gardens, majestic mountains, beaches, and lakes. And as I've mentioned many times in this presentation, a very mild climate, which allows for lots of year-round activity. Not as much rain as Vancouver or Seattle, as we like to boast to them any chance that we get. As I mentioned, lots of outdoor activities, and really important for your clients to know that Victoria is more than just a day trip. Really, 2 to 3 nights is what we recommend to get the most and do the trip justice. That's it for me. I'll send it back to Charlie. Thank you all for joining me this morning. I hope you got something out of this and learned a few things, and be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you so much. Such a thorough and passionate presentation about Victoria. It's fantastic. Heaps of detail in there. So thank you. Hope you all enjoyed that. The floor is open for questions. If anyone has any questions, type them into the chat box now. I told Jamie earlier that I was scribbling down questions and then he was answering them as he went. So because it was such a thorough presentation. So thank you. Just a few comments I had was that it was really handy to have the US connections into Victoria. It's quite popular to do the a 2-nation vacation with the US and Canada, so that's great. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, well, Seattle is such a major gateway that having those connections through the Clipper and the Coho are crucial for you guys to know, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, of course, such a beautiful, laid-back city, the great food culture. I'm a big foodie as well, so loved all of that. And like you said, the mild climate means that you really can visit any time of year and do all those fantastic activities.
Yes, yes.
We do have a couple of questions. So Anne-Marie says, when does the new V2V start?
Anne-Marie, thanks. So they are beginning service in March of 2017. They haven't selected an official start date yet. It should be announced within the next coming weeks, but March 2017 is when they're starting that up. They're retrofitting the boat right now and making sure it's all prepared for starting next spring.
Lovely, thank you. Lily says, is there a way for clients to travel around the island by public transport if they don't want to hire a car?
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the beautiful things about the Greater Victoria area is that it's all very connected through BC Transit, so our public transportation system. And one of the great perks of the system is that you can purchase a day pass for the buses for $5. So that $5 will take you from Victoria as far as Souk up to Schwartz Bay and cover the whole Greater Victoria area. Beyond that, you would be looking at things like Greyhounds and Tofino bus to get you further up island to places like Nanaimo, Tofino.
Great, thank you. Okay, no more questions at the moment. So I think we'll sign off there. Jamie and I will stay on the line after we've signed off. So if anyone does want to hang back and ask anything, please do. But otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you, Jamie, for joining us from Victoria. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.